Hi, this is Lizzie Taylor, and I interviewed Dr. Preston Parker, who is an entrepreneur for many different ventures, and he's also a professor here at Utah State University. I interviewed him specifically on the starting and ownership of Morty's Cafe. So, Morty's Cafe is a burger joint. It is quick food, quick service, but nicer quality, sort of gourmet burger place. Um, so how this started, um, so Preston Parker was actually 38 when this started, and he had started many different businesses and different ventures before this. And he had been teaching for quite a few years before as well. So he had a previous student named Ty Mortensen come to him with this idea, and he brought him to the location where the original Morty's is now, and he pitched him this vision that he had of this restaurant right off campus. It's a huge traffic point, and he wanted to build apartments above it eventually as well. Um, so Preston Parker, he loved this idea. He said what initially um, caught his attention was the location, that it was right off campus. It really was a busy traffic point, with walking on foot and biking and cars. And he said that the campus had just barely signed a Coke only agreement on campus. Um, and this restaurant sparked his interest because he knew that they could be the closest place to campus where you could get Pepsi products. Um, so they got this location and they had no idea what restaurant they were going to build. They didn't know what it was going to be at all. They just knew that they wanted that location, because it was such a busy point and it would be so close to campus. So what they did is they sent out tons and tons of surveys to students and locals specifically because those would be who they are targeted towards, and so they sent out bunch of surveys, asked questions about what the public would want and what they would actually pay for. And so they came to the conclusion that it should be a burger joint and that it should be um, higher level than fast food, but not necessarily a gourmet sit down restaurant. And so it's kind of a middle, like higher end, quick service food place. Um, so they first financed this initially actually through a Kickstarter. They set up this big Kickstarter for a restaurant, which is not usually done, and so it actually piqued a lot of interest, and um, they got the attention of a radio company actually, and they got half an hour of radio time for free just because they were intrigued by this Kickstarter for this new restaurant. Um, and Dr. Parker, he mentions that this was kind of their first big break because they would not have gotten the publicity that they did without this radio ad, and they would not have been able to pay for the this radio time. And so that got them a lot of customers, and they also made quite a bit of money from this Kickstarter so that they were able to open this business. Um, Something that Dr. Parker mentions, um, that has been really important to him in all of his different ventures, and he thinks is crucial to starting a business, is having a mentor. Um, in this instance with Morty's Cafe, it's sort of unique because he was more of the mentor to this student, Ty Mortensen, and he was able to create the funds and kind of get this dream going for Ty Mortensen. And so he mentions that getting a mentor for any venture is really important to get someone who has higher resources, higher knowledge, higher experience in this field. And he also mentions that it's very important to get this network going beforehand. So that was one of the things that was kind of their key to success, was that he had been in the industry long enough that he had a very complex network for this. Um, One of their biggest success points was that they talked to the public. They based everything fully on what the public wanted. They just knew they wanted a restaurant there, and they had no idea otherwise. And they asked and asked and asked and figured out what people would actually pay for. So they listened to the customer wants, which was huge, and then they had their big network. And I think also they constantly went back and evaluated um, and kept asking. And so honestly, I'm impressed with their adaptability. And this was not an industry he was in before. He wasn't in the food industry. He just was an entrepreneur, and he knew that he could make this something the public wanted. Um, so I'm very impressed with how they jumped at the opportunity, and they were able to make it what the public wanted. And to this day, they just hit their 11-year mark last week, actually, of being open in business, and they are still a bump in business, and they have 5 different locations. And I'm very grateful that I got to interview him. He is a great guy, and he gave me a lot of advice and insight into how I can start businesses in the future.